So hello and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Connect with Collins webinar, where we focus specifically on Edgecombe Retirement Village today. So my name is Stefan Botha, and I'm part of the Retire KZN campaign, and here to facilitate the discussion today with our panel. So today we're spending time with the developers of Edgecombe Retirement Village, the Collins Group, as well as the team from TotalCare, who are the guys running and behind the whole care centre operation within Edgecombe Retirement Village. So welcome to all of you, and really appreciate all of your time. We know it's a combination of different people today. We know it's existing owners, family of owners, prospective owners, and also people from the community who just want to know a bit more about the product and a bit more about retirement. And I've got no doubt that the insight from the team today will really give you a lot of comfort and a lot of insight into what's happening. So we want to keep this engaging, we want to keep it informal, and we want to keep it open. So our real objective is that we want to give you feedback you wouldn't necessarily be able to get anywhere else, and stuff you wouldn't find on a marketing brochure anywhere. And we really encourage you to engage and to ask questions. There is ability to be able to post questions at the bottom of the chat, and we're going to try and get through those questions as best we can. Obviously, where it's covered maybe in the questions that I asked the panel, but we really want to ask you whatever you have, and between the IP we have sitting on this chat, I'm pretty sure we answered pretty well. So just from a panelist perspective, we really just want to introduce the team in front of you, who really are the core team in terms of having driven the vision of Edgecombe Retirement Village to where it is today. So just in order from the top, I think Murray Collins from H. Collins and Sons. So Murray's a developer of Edgecombe Retirement Village, but also heads up Collins Residential. And for those of you who don't know, Murray's fourth generation of family has been involved in property for over 100 years. And then to Jeff Perkins, on my side, he's top left, but Jeff
Morning.
is, morning Jeff, afternoon Jeff,
Afternoon.
is the residential produce director for Collins Residential. And then Dave Cameron, who is a development manager on site, and who also heads up all the sales. And then Cornell Nevenhuizen, who is from TotalCare. Good afternoon, Cornell, from all the way from Joburg. And so obviously TotalCare are the operators of the care facility. They manage 7 Frail-Care and assisted living facilities around the country, and Edgecombe Retirement Village is their first facility within KZN. And I think there's will be huge amounts of insight from Cornell in terms of trends and how things work. There's just a couple of things for those of you on a webinar chat for the first time. It's natural. We know that internet is pretty unpredictable. So if you lose your connection during the chat, feel free just to go back to the initial link that you went in, and you'll come straight back on. And the same will apply to panel. If any of the panel members lose connection at any point, we'll just shift the question across to someone else, and then get back to them when they're back on the chat. And then you will see a couple of polls popping up, stuff that we think might be of interest to you, and feel free to vote on those polls, and you'll see the results as you go through. And then obviously in terms of the questions that we hope you can pose, and we'll try and get through those. And like we said, we want to try and be as open and transparent. So just to start off with, just to paint the picture in terms of where Edgecombe Retirement Village is today, we've just done a small little slideshow clip, which we're going to show you, which just gives it context in terms of the product, where it is today, and where it's situated. So I think we're just going to be sharing that for you before we get onto the panel questions. So I hope that all gives you a bit of context into the product for those of you who haven't been there before. And obviously for those of you who have been involved, just interesting to see some of the visuals of where things are today. So in terms of the panel, Murray, I'm going to jump straight in with a question for you. And I think it really comes to the fact that all these things happen with a vision. I know the chats are that it all started with you having a chat with someone in 2016, really revolved around this new wave of retirement that was hitting our shores. And just really the question is how this vision and this insight helped you in terms of shaping the vision for Edgecombe Retirement Village.
Thanks, Stefan. I mean, I don't know if it was 2016 or mid-2015, but we had a consultant, a US-based consultant, working for us for 3 months, and he was living out at Belito. And on his way in one day, he phoned me and he said, look, I'm at the top of a hill here in the middle of sugarcane, but I don't know where I am. And he explained to me, and it was just outside of Mshoti, in fact, now what's known as Sabaya. Anyway, he came into the office and he sat me down and he said, look, he's been living here for about a month, but there's something that's bothering him. There's all these massive open areas with wonderful logistics, highways and airports, 12 months of good weather. And he said, you know, he traveled around the world and the only place comparable to Florida that he could think of in the US was KwaZulu-Natal. And he got us onto thinking about the vision of retirement in the world and what the future holds for what we call retirement villages or whatever you want to call them. But the bottom line is people are living longer. They want to be in good weather. And he said that he hadn't seen anywhere that could compare to this and couldn't understand why nothing was being done to match the demand. Well, obviously that was foreign to us at that stage and got us thinking. And the more research we did, the more we understood with the complexities of retirement, which we'll touch on later, I'm sure. But what we can't deny is that people are living longer. And there are going to be more people over the age of 70 in the next 15, 20, 30, 40 years. And north of Durban is a fantastic place to live your final years. So that's really how it started. It got us thinking. And as you know, if you call us third world, we follow trends. And this trend has been going on for 15, 20 years in the States and in some places in Europe, and they can't cope. So we thought we'd get ahead of the market and do something quite unique. And that's where we conceived the idea in Kindlewood.
Perfect. And Murray, I know you've lived within my Edgecombe estate for, I think it's 12 years or so. How much, and when one looks at the ethos and the architecture, how much of that with regards to Edgecombe Retirement Village is to create an extension of that Edgecombe lifestyle?
Well, it would be obvious to do that in Kindlewood because of Edgecombe being next door, and simply put, it works. It's a phenomenal estate. Edgecombe runs seamlessly, and we've got great management here. But it was also tacking onto an already done facility where all the related services and activities are already in Edgecombe, and if we're next door, we could piggyback off each other. In other words, they provide the services, and we provide the members. So it made no sense in duplicating that. So I think in essence, although we're separate, we can actually be seen to be together if a member chooses to have those facilities.
Perfect, thanks, Murray. And then Jeff, just on to you. I know we've called this webinar Retirement in the 21st Century. And I think obviously we know that the retirement landscape, especially within the States and South Africa, has changed massively over the course of the last decade or so, even just the last couple of years. What do you think? How do you think this retirement landscape has shifted, and what do you think people are looking for today?
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of an interesting question, because when I'd met this chap that Murray alluded to earlier from the States, and we got this chatting about this whole wave of retirement and the need going forward, what I had in my head and what we've ended up with couldn't be further apart. I mean, that's where TotalCare came into play. But what we decided to do was, let's go on a bit of a roadshow. Went around the country. I tried to visit as many existing or more modern retirement schemes that had been built, and we looked at the facilities they had, which facilities worked, and we met up with the TotalCare team, Max Nordia at the time, who's one of the fellow directors there. And we started going around all these different estates. And I think it's so important, because what we as a developer might think is necessary, pertinent, or of value to the end user is not necessarily actually the case. I mean, we saw many facilities in some estates that Max said that's a white elephant. Beautiful, a beautiful amenity, but but it's just not being utilized. So we wanted to have our retirement village and our care center within a bigger estate, and there was a very good reason for that. You find a lot of these places are an entity on their own, they have a fence around them, and that's the extent of your facility. We wanted multi-generational living, and by what that I mean for the grandchild to say to his or her parents, I'm going to go and visit granny or grandpa, get on their bike and go there. It's just not an issue. Go and have a glass of juice. So that's what Kindlewood as an estate offers us, multi-generational living. You can have grandchildren, kids, and grandparents all living and being taken care of in one estate. More so to that, they're within the larger bounds of the estate. They've got, in Kindlewood's case, 17 hectares of open spaces, walking paths, wetlands, all of those facilities that the normal homeowners within the estate are used to every single day. And even further to that, Murray touched on this earlier, right next door to Mount Edgecombe Country Club, where all the facilities are there. Two fantastic bowling greens, a bridge club, there's golf and all sorts of other things for those younger retirees. So we wanted to have it all encompassing, and Kindlewood was absolutely the right spot with security and the whole bank shoot covered. So I think the modern retiree expects, and rightly so, probably a lot more than what it was like 15, 20 years ago. So we're just very pleased we were able to pull the retirement, Mount Edgecombe Retirement Village within an estate, because it was the first of its kind. Thanks, Steph.
Thanks, Chef. And I think just an interesting thing to add to that, I know with the Retire KZN campaign that's been running, every person who signs up has the ability to prioritize what their key preferences are. And I think, like Jeff's saying, the baby boomer market is a lot more specific about what they want as opposed to a silent generation before. And their top 4 things throughout have been security, number 1, care centre on site, pet friendliness, number 3, and a clubhouse and facilities, number 4. That's been consistent throughout the 4 or 5 years of the campaign. So I think a lot of that, what you just said now, talks to where those needs and demands are. So Cornell, I think on to you. We're going to touch on the care centre a little bit later, but I think just to ask a bit about this legislation that's been put in, or that's been existing in terms of the Old Persons Act. So it obviously is very specific in terms of the facilities and requirements that need to be put in relation to the different components of care. So if you can maybe just elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, thanks, Steph. I think the Older Persons Act is our guide here, Act 13 of 2006, and it clearly promotes the dignity, the safety, and the well-being of the older person. And it's with that backbone that we created these type of facilities more than 20 years ago already. And the challenge is to get a situation where you look at all the different stages of care. A person comes in and there's a lovely house that they can buy because they want to still stay independently, but they've got the foresight. They know they are getting older and they need to be in a space where they can still be with younger generations, older generations, but they know they've got the backup of a proper care center. So that's normally the first stage. Then you get to a stage, yes, where you can have some care because now you started to not being able to normally function, or just you struggle maybe with 1 or 2 of your normal functions of daily living. Then what we do, because we've got a strong care center at Mount Edgecombe Retirement Village, we come and we do that care for you in the comfort of your own home. And I think that is something that lacks in a lot of these estates, because people build big estates, but they don't build a big enough care center. And then that care center struggles so much just to look after the few Frail-Care people in Frail-Care center that they cannot still do the showering and the house cleaning and some of the normal stuff that's required in the comfort of their own home. So that's basically a second step, the home-based care. Your third step then is coming into assisted living. Say the husband passes away or the wife passes away, or the couple just decides they don't want to live in this house anymore. They need more care. They need all their food to be made. They need the laundry to be done. It's like staying in a hotel. We've got a nice hotel set up, all en suite with air conditioning and everything that they require. Give them their cappuccinos and cake. It's literally like staying in a hotel with the care that you require. And then the last stage is Frail-Care. So I think this is what made the proposition of Mount Edgecombe so great. Normally a investment like this is difficult to get up front, and that's why we're so grateful for the Collins guys that you guys have just come on board and given us what we want right from the start, without phasing it in and giving people a half service from the start. Now we can give a full service right from the start, and yeah, we're very, very happy about being able to do that.
And Cornell, just in terms of that facility, so we'll get onto specifics around it, but in terms of planning, I mean, how long was that planning process in terms of getting that facility in conjunction with Collins to a space where you guys felt it was the ideal for what you wanted to do?
Yeah, that's a good question, Steph. I think our discussions was about 2 years. Jeff mentioned meeting with Max and myself, I mean, with their roadshow, and that was just after Murray's discussion with these other guys in 2016. So I think our first discussion was late 2016 already. So the planning for this facility was at least 2 years, and we're now a year running. We had our first birthday now in lockdown. So a thing like this doesn't just jump up overnight. I mean, we had, I think, all of the best minds around the table, very nice professional team from the Collins guys, our experience and what we've seen, and also bettering that. I mean, you can never be at a stage where something is perfect. So I think even the place that Jeff referred to that he went and visited from us, there's quite a lot of things that we've bettered on that one. And we really see now Mount Edgecombe being our current flagship in our stable.
Perfect, thanks, Cornell. And then just a reminder to all of you, I know the Garlic and Balsall team, you guys have commented, thanks for that. And just in terms of any comments as they come through, feel free to post them. So Dave, you've obviously done a lot of research into retirement, and I know you always refer to those 4 stages of retirement. I don't know if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, thanks, Steph. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I think to begin with, when we did the research, it was important for us to ensure that we tackled both the independent and dependent lifestyle of retirees. So for us, that was sort of critical. I think, you know, the physical and mental security that people need is important when buying into this type of facility. And I think Cornell's touched on it, you know, whereby you've got your 4 different tiers. You've got your independent living, where you buy a sectional title home and you own it outright. More of a longer term investment because you are physically fit and able, and you've got the facilities of Kindlewood, as well as the care centre that offer the meals and the laundry and the cleaning service and those sort of things. And you could use those you know, as and when you need to, which is why we've been able to keep the levies quite low, which is also a big perk. You then have home-based care. So again, depending on what you need, it's always better to stay in the comfort of your own home and get care to come to you if you can. And that could be an hour a day or 24/7. Again, it depends on what's required. Then your sort of 3rd and 4th tier are in your care center, your hotel assisted living, and then your high care. So for us to be in a flexible solution where you have all of these tiers that you can move up and down when the need arises was critical for the success of this. So, I mean, I'll give you an example. We had a gentleman who went in for a back operation who bought and is living in the independent home, and had a back operation, moved home, and his wife said, look, this is too stressful for me. I can't cope with having to look after you. He moved into the Frail-Care section where he had private carers look after him for about 4.5 weeks, where he had his meals done, you know, and his wife would come up and have coffee with him every day to check up. Just didn't have the stress of it. And within 4.5 weeks after seeing the on-site doctor, after seeing the on-site physiotherapist, you know, he was given the all clear to walk down to his own home. So for us, that was a perfect case study of how well this works if you get it right. So from when you're fit and healthy to when you're needing care and everything in between, it's, you know, the 4 tiers are crucial.
Perfect, thanks, Dave. So one critical stat, and probably quite a sort of a sobering stat in itself, is the fact that if one were to look at those people in South Africa who currently over the age of 60, it makes up 8.5% of our total population, whereas it's projected that by 2050, this will make up 15% of our population. So it's pretty much almost doubling. So it obviously really highlights the need for estates and for care and for retirement going forward. But in your opinion, Dave, who should be looking at retirement? Is it just the people who are over 55?
Not at all, Steph. No, not at all. I think in our experience, there's three different types of markets. There's end users, so people who are buying to use. There's kids for their parents. You know, for example, if you live in Mount Edgecombe and you're looking for a place close to home, it's an ideal opportunity to purchase something for your folks to be close. And then investor buyers, so people who are mid-60s, you know, physically fit and able, but are thinking longer term and seeing the value in this type of living that, you know, that they need to sort of look after their future effectively. So I'll give you an example. We've done that with our own family. So we've bought a home for my dad, and it gives us a stress-free environment whereby if and ever the need did arise, we can call for that asset when we need to. And rather be prepared for, you know, when the time comes, because it's inevitable. I think, you know, people think that we're invincible until something happens, and then something happens, and then we start looking, in which case, you know, the horse is bolted. It's too late. So to have that asset in your arsenal when the time comes is ideal. And what we've done is we've placed a tenant in there. So that, you know, again, not under any illusion to rush to moving in, but when the need requires, we've got our bases covered. So that for us is quite personal, and everybody on this panel effectively has been looking at this through a very much a personal, view. You know, what would my family do? How would they be? And I think that was important for the success of this. You know, everybody buys into the vision of their own personal family. And I think when some people do that, it just changes the ballgame completely.
100%. And then Jeff, so obviously what we see today is a pretty remarkable estate, but it's a lot of people say that retirement is only for the very brave developers. So there's obviously been a few challenges along the way. I don't know if you want to maybe elaborate.
There's never a shortage of challenges. Well, firstly, if you develop in KwaZulu-Natal, we have horrible things called hills everywhere. And that's no exception. I think we had to cut 6 meters off the top of a hill for our starting point. So, I mean, right from the very beginning. And I think it is more difficult because historically, and this is where we've really tried to change things, historically, the purchase of a retirement home can be seen as a grudge purchase. We didn't want it to be like that. What we wanted was a purchase, almost moving to a more exciting and comforting stage of your life where you know everything is taken care of. Like I said, if you want to play whatever sport you're into at that particular time, or whatever communities you want to be a part of, we wanted those to be there, tick the box with security. So we try to remove that away, but you don't, you know, there's the difficult things like mortgages. They're challenging to get if you need one in your latter years. So then that leads to a situation where one can normally only secure your purchase by selling your existing home. So you had a home in Durban North, you definitely want to move into retirement, Mount Edgecombe Retirement Village. You've got to sell the home in Durban North or Berea, or wherever you're going to be moving from, before you can secure that purchase price. And that's a challenge for us as a developer, because the banks, obviously, our financiers don't particularly like that. So we had to go out and build, which we've done. At any given stage, there are a number of units for you to go and feel, touch, walk about that are mostly complete in our village. And we encourage people to do that, because buying off plan, we understand, is difficult, especially if it's going to be a home you're going to live and enjoy for some time. So the other big thing for us was, and we do this in all our states, doesn't matter if we're talking about Zululami or Emberton up in Hillcrest, our first one we did, conventional estates, that is, we try and put our facilities in first. Now, this one was a big one because we wanted a proper facility. Max and Cornell were very demanding in their needs. So this is a 115 million Rand investment that covers all those wonderful things Dave was talking about. And that was available before the very first resident moved into Mount Edgecombe Retirement Village. And we're very, very proud of that, because I very clearly will always state, I think this is the best care centre I've ever come across. And that's what it's about at the end of the day. So those have been challenges, but we've managed to overcome them. And yeah, it's been a tremendous success so far.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. So Cornell, I mean, I'm just going to, there's a question that came through from Dave Ward, and I'm going to ask you one about the care centre. It probably leads in, and it says, can people that live in Kinderwood use the care facility, or do you have to stay in Merv itself? And when he's referring to Merv, he's referring to my Edgecombe Retirement Village, obviously.
Yes, no, thank you, Steph. Anybody can use the care centre. Our care centre is designed to service the whole community. So it's not only even people in Kindlewood. It is for Mount Edgecombe Country Club. It is for Mshlanga, for Berea and Durban North. Anybody that's close enough can use our facility. We even get people from overseas. We get people from other provinces, because in their province, there might not be a facility that's up to their standards. So we've had people so far from Howick, from Pietermaritzburg, from all over KZN to come live there. You do, however, have the advantage of staying in Mount Edgecombe Retirement Village, because you can't have home-based care or home nursing. So we refer to home nursing as just a 1 hour here and there, or home-based care if you need 12 or 24 hours per day care. So that function we can unfortunately not give outside of the Mount Edgecombe Retirement Village itself. But anybody is welcome to come and make use of our assisted living or frail care, whether they stay in Mount Edgecombe or not, or in Kindlewood or not.
Perfect, thanks for now. And then, so obviously at 112 beds, it's undoubtedly the most integrated facility within KZN. So I know from the word go, even at that first launch event we did at Mount Edgecombe, you always spoke about how you wanted to create a hybrid between a Protea hotel and a Mediclinic. Do you feel that's been achieved?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe a Four Seasons hotel and a Mediclinic.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think at that stage we were still thinking a bit smaller. No, Steph, I think that's definitely been achieved. We go in there and people always ask me, but you're going down for business now, where are you staying? I say, in my own hotel. So yeah, it's really that nice that we don't have to book into an hotel or to a guest house. I literally go stay there myself. I'm breaking the rules. I'm not yet over 50, but yeah, we're very proud of the way that it came out, and yeah, we can't be more happy.
So, and I know you touched on it briefly, but if you're someone who is either at that phase or you've got loved ones who are at that phase who need increased care, what are the different options within the care centre?
Okay, so in the care centre, we've got the basic option. Some people come and they say, listen, I just had it. I did 50 years of doing washing and making food. I just want to come and relax. I want to come spend my time playing bridge, doing our wellness hours. We've got every day a nice wellness hour with either the biokineticist or the occupational therapist, or playing games, or the music man. We've got a nice Irish guy playing good music. So those type of lifestyle, that's the first step. So that's the first option. Come and stay on a full board basis. It's not expensive, but you need no care or little care. Then the second option that they have is to come into a full assisted living, where we do the medication administration, where we assist here and there with some of the activities of daily living. And all of those other activities are also included. And then the third option that they have is a full frail care. And that is, some people refer to it as high care, frail care, but that's the next step, or the last step, not in everybody's case, because some people are fortunate enough maybe to die of a heart attack in the middle of the night in assisted living, but other people unfortunately need to go to frail care, and that's not necessarily unfortunate. That is why we have a great frail care centre with compassionate nursing staff to really make sure that we take good care of them. Other frail care or other care facilities will, for example, cut corners by not having registered personnel on every shift. We do have that, even though we only at 25% capacity at the moment. So we really go above and beyond what the South African Nursing Council and everybody prescribes. We want to create a new standard in South Africa to say, come and live here with dignity and come and enjoy the last 5 or 10 years of your life in our facility.
Perfect. And then Cornell, for someone who's already living within Mount Edgecombe Retirement Village, but would like to stay active for as long as they can within their existing home, the home-based model, is that something that will obviously be quite a big component of the offering going forward?
Yeah, that is immensely important. We treasure our residents because the residents are, in fact, our biggest stakeholders. So to look after them well is very, very important. And it's an important part of the business because a lot of people, because they unfortunately have been, Frail-Care centers have been stigmatized in the past, these people are very wary sometimes of coming to a Frail-Care center. So sometimes a person would have made up their mind long ago that they'll never be in such a facility. So then they get maybe dementia, and then at a later stage, then they say, but I've made up my mind, I'm not coming. And for those people, we need to give a good service. And it's not only them, that's one example. There's a lot of people that just need some care. And it's a very important part of our business, yes.
Perfect, thanks. So Murray, there's a question that's come through from John Lee, and it's a very relevant question and one we probably hadn't planned as part of our questions. And it says, was there a particular reason for following a sectional title model versus life rights? And can you ever offer both at the same time?
Well, I think it's a very important and relevant question, John. The reason we didn't go with the life rights model was simply that I don't think people in KwaZulu-Natal really bought into it. The Cape seems to have bought into it, and a lot of foreign people who go down there to retire have bought into it, and it's been very successful. Our advice at the time was that it was too premature for Natal. And I don't know why that is, but life rights here has a stigma attached to it. I do think it's a great model, and I think it's got a lot of merit. And I think we're going to look at that model in future developments. And I do believe, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe you certainly can have them in the same development, and I know other places have. Yes. It's just a question of choice, but our thinking on that is evolving, and I think the life rights model definitely has a place for us in the future.
I mean, even to add to that, Murray, Dave and I have recently been engaging with our conveyancing attorneys on putting together, perhaps for future phases, blocks where a life rights model can work. So we're in the process of because I think it's a matter of time. You hit the nail on the head. You know, when we first started looking at life rights, some people are happy with that, but most felt, you know, it was seen negatively that they were paying the money and then, you know, at the end you get the property back.
I think that if we can just dwell on the concept of life rights, and I'm no expert on this, but essentially, if it's you spending your own money to live better yourself rather than leaving it to someone else, if I can term it like that. In other words, put the money up front, enjoy yourself, and don't worry about the capital appreciation, which is your right as a living human. And what happens when you're dead shouldn't really matter. And I think that's been the worry. Is people are always worried about losing the appreciation of a unit or something. But in fact, I actually tend to think that at that age, the life rights model could be more suited in a lot of instances to people who would like to do it like that, and then still leave other stuff to their children. But actually, you should come first at that stage of your life, and enjoy that rather than hassle about it. Pay it up front, have no worries afterwards, and then and deal with your heirs in a separate way. So I think we've got to really look at this hard because it makes sense to me.
Maria, just to cut in maybe there, I think you're 100% right. But I think the problem that we face in reality is that the discount on life right versus sectional title is not big enough. So now you forgo in a current market that discount in the view that you want to rather spend the money for yourself and use the money for yourself, but you're not really achieving that. And that's what we've seen. And that's why for us, we run 2 life right models as well in the group. And that's why with us, we prefer sectional title, because it's very difficult for a developer to pass on a discount that makes it worthwhile to rather go life right than sectional title.
Yeah, I think I understand that. I think maybe in the first phase of things, that's correct. I mean, what is the discount? I mean, that's kind of a buyer-seller negotiation, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. But I definitely agree with that first comment about the KZN market historically not really understanding life rights. And I think it definitely will change as guys start understanding retirement a little bit better.
Steph, the question there, sorry, and why it is like that is because the majority of us are asset-based thinking rather than lifestyle-based thinking. Whereas the foreigners and the people in the Cape were moving there for the lifestyle and not worrying about the asset. So I think that's where we got caught up. I think we made the right decision, but we have had a lot of people now questioning it. And I think Cornell's view is 100% right. We've got to look at that to get that right, because it's got to work. We have to have that type of model.
Yeah. And John, just to add to your question, like Jeff said, there are definitely some great examples where developers have created a component of sectional title and a component of life rights. So maybe in the future, there's opportunities there. Dave, I think just back onto you in terms of the actual product and in terms of what's been sold, what's been completed, and what's currently available.
Sure. So to date, we've sold out of phase one, which was just shy of 50 odd units. This type of market, it's very difficult, as Jeff alluded to earlier, to sell to a retiree off plan. So we've almost had to do a hybrid model of both, whereby you have homes that are there for immediate occupation, but at the same time, if you've got an investor buyer who doesn't necessarily need to move in now, that off-plan element becomes quite sort of strong. So to date, we've built 80 odd units and we've sold 65. So we've got those 15 units that are there for immediate occupation, but there are other phases that will be built in time to come. And there's a hybrid of living options. So 1, 2, and 3 bedroom homes range from about 2.4 to 2.5 million rand up to 3.4, 3.5. So we've tried to cover our bases, and we've almost let the market dictate what they want in terms of what suits their needs. Is it a 1 bedroom? Is it a 2 bedroom? To date, the research states and also the popularity is the 2-bed, 2-bath single garage seems to be more of attuned to what the modern day retiree needs. Because they only have one car. There's no need for a double garage, for example. They want that second room in for a workspace. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to have that flexibility on the sales front. That if somebody wants a 3-bedroom, we're able to accompany that request. So it's also nice to see, again, from a sales point of view, the majority of our buyers are still coming from the sort of Durban North and also Mount Edgecombe estate. Because people want to be close to their families and want to be close to their friends. That seems to be an interesting trend that we've followed quite closely right from launch to date.
Perfect. And then Dave, obviously there are a lot of specifics from a design perspective that go into retirement. You mentioned, guys, in terms of storage and work areas, all that kind of stuff. There's obviously a lot of modifications that happen within these units. Yeah,
I think you touched on it earlier around the sort of 4 key areas or key pillars to look into. Number 1 was security, so physical security, being in an estate. The number 2 was the on-site care facility. 3 was being I think it was pet friendly. But more importantly for us, the idea of what we've tried to create is almost timeless. So by building something that's a little bit more modern and mix that with a multi-generation appeal, we don't want to be renowned for being an old age home. That I think is a negative perception of what people associate retiring with, which is not in our case. I think the majority of the people who come to site are wowed by the fact that they see these modern day designs, open space, multi-purpose facilities. So the care center itself has a cafe, a restaurant, which is open to the entire Kindlewood estate. So walking in there, on any given day during the week, you'll see business meetings happening, activities, and you want that to almost complement the way the lifestyle is for an independent village homeowner. And to keep that, as I say, the space flexible was important for us from a design aspect, and the two complement each other absolutely.
Perfect. So Dave, you got a message from Gay Kincaid who says, I'm waiting, hurry up, please.
Gay, you're on my top of the list. Don't worry, I've got you covered. You've been to site 2 or 3 times with us. I promise I won't let you down.
So Dave, just one last question for you. I think we know you've dealt with every homeowner to date, and I think Murray or Jeff mentioned it, that it is effectively a grudge purchase. Everyone thinks that retirement's not for them, and they're never going to need to retire. So in terms of, you've obviously had good transitions, you probably had difficult transitions. What's your advice to anyone who's sort of entering that phase?
Yeah, it's a good question, Steph. I think, generally we don't like change. We all don't like change. We're creatures of habit. And I think the one piece of advice is the later you leave it, the more difficult it becomes. So the perception, as I mentioned earlier, was I'm not old, I'm not frail, I don't need to move into a retirement village, thanks. That's the general response. But our biggest tool, if you like, is trying to educate buyers to say it's not about a grudge. Don't leave this for a panic purchase. To be in a situation where you've got yourself retired, we almost treat this like a fail-safe or a fallback, or even an insurance policy or a safety net. Being in a position where you've got your future secured, but you continue to live the way that you do, because at the back of your mind, in time to come, when the time comes, you'll have your bases covered. Because effectively, there's two ways of looking at this. It's people who need it and people who can see it or future-proof it. And I think that's critical for us, being able to educate people to say it's not about the now, it's about when the time comes, because inevitably we all know somebody, or we all are going to get old at some stage. And why put that pressure on you as a family, because it becomes a very emotional purchase when the time happens. But if you take the emotion out of it and you educate yourself on why the importance of this type of facility with this type of offering is, you'll find that the stress is enormous that you'll alleviate from you and your family, because it's a family decision. When something happens, we've all got to drop our hats and we've all got to attend to whoever's sick in the family. If you've got this type of offering, you can cover your bases. So don't leave it too late would be my sort of firm advice.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave.
Isn't that saying of yours where you're not downgrading, you're downscaling?
That's exactly it. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of people who come through, as I say, are pleasantly surprised by the sizes, because historically, I think retirement villages have been, sort of tarnished with pokey, small, dark places. And I think we've tried to completely navigate away from that. So keeping the same lifestyle, trying to have the same space within reason, obviously. Because the bigger your unit, the more expensive it becomes. But you've just got to be practical when you look at things like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Dave, just while you're chatting, so Solvin Raja just asked, what are the options for buy and what are the options for rent?
So we've undertaken, Steph, the option of not basically competing with people who are looking as an investor market. So I alluded to the sort of 60-odd people aged bracket where they're not really ready to move. So there is an option of buying and renting out until such time as they need it. So that's become quite a popular model. I mean, I'd say more than 50% of our homeowners in phase one that was sold out have taken that. So we as a developer didn't want to compete with that. We didn't want to be renting out our own stock, because we felt that there was enough investor buyers in the market looking for that return, but more the long-term capital growth that you'll get, and also, as I said, the security or the safety net that comes with it. So it's a hybrid. So depending on what you want, you must just let us know, and we can guide you on what the best option would be, depending on your affordability, whether you want to purchase or whether you want to rent.
Perfect. So Solvin, I hope that answers your question. And then just a comment from Peter Small. Peter just said, please can you make the recording of this webinar available to attendees? I need to show this to my partner. Yes, absolutely, Peter. So what you'll do is you'll get a mail pretty shortly after this, probably tomorrow, that summarizes the discussion points as well as the full recording of this. And we'll also be posting this onto the Edgecombe Retirement Village blog, where you'll be able to go through it. So we'll make sure that you've got access to it and you can share it to whoever you would need to. And I think to be able to get these guys all into a room is quite special, or a virtual room. So hopefully some good insights you can share. So everyone, so we've always wanted to keep this around 45 minutes. I think we're thereabouts in terms of time. Really appreciate the comments that have come through, the questions that have come through. They've all been really, really relevant, and obviously really appreciate everyone's time today in terms of the panel. And yeah, I just want to, when we finish this chat, there will be a a copy of the Maneshka Retirement Village website that will come onto your screen. So feel free to go through there. And if you've got any queries, chat to Dave directly. You can email him off that. And then we're just going to finish with a video, which was actually done when we handed over the care center, and just a little bit of an insight into the journey that in terms of where the project started from the first launch that happened at Edgecombe Estate, basically through to where it is today. And it was with a specific focus on the care center. So just, I think, a thank you to everyone who's joined. I don't know if there's panel, any of you guys have got any final comments or anything you want to finish with?
I think, Steph, if I can, there seems to be a lot of comments in the build-up to this. I've got a couple of emails around levies. Just to be clear on the levy side of things, with living independently at the Edgecombe Retirement Village, you are able to keep the levies substantially lower than the estate levies on the basis that you only really pay for what you use. So I think that is a big draw card for us. From 1 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms, the levies range from about 2,000 to 3,000 Rand in total. So if you're fully independent and you don't need any facilities from the care center itself, then you know what your figures are in for. But if there are certain facilities that you use, if you are staying at home and you're ordering a meal from the care center, or if you come up and you enjoy a coffee, or if you get your hair cut, or if you get a laundry service or a domestic cleaner to come and help you clean your home, all of those are value-added services that you will then settle directly with TotalCare. So it almost accommodates that. Because I think what we found, especially now in this lockdown pandemic that we have, is our community has never been stronger. I've seen this firsthand because I'm part of our MERV group and the Retirement Village group, and it really does lend itself to give me a warm heart, the fact that there's such a nice community that's literally pulled together, people helping people, it's like-minded people, and for us to see this is extremely encouraging, because we want the right person coming in with us, and we want to be able to, help where we can and do what we can. And I think that's critical, especially during the time that we have, complemented by TotalCare's offering and services. I think, we've really shone through here, and I'm super proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, I'd agree with you 100%. The biggest challenge right in the beginning, when you and I were driving around Joburg and trying to work out how we were going to put an entire retirement village together, was finding the likes of Cornell and Max and his team, because it's the backbone to any successful story, and they have been way better as our care providers than I initially ever envisaged. So hats off. If I could give you a virtual hug,
Thanks, Steph, for you.
Well
I think you've been a great host. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Steph.
Thanks, everyone. So we're just going to finish with that video, and then hope you all have a wonderful week and that you all stay safe.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
So there we go. Thanks everyone and have a great day.
Thanks,
guys.
guys. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.